Welcome back to Fire Emblem Thracia 776. This is Chapter 9, which can be a run killer. So we'll see how it goes for me here. There was a Reddit thread a while back that I was a part of, sort of in a minor way, where a lot of big names and small names alike were discussing just how fair this chapter is, and reasons why it's fair if you know the specific mechanics behind certain groups of enemies in this, and just how defending the escape tile works. And I believe this is the first mission where you have to defend a tile like this. That's like a fork tile, basically, sort of. I forget exactly what it's called. And I could be wrong about that because I was wrong in the very last chapter about 8x being the second Gaiden, when in fact it's the third. Sometimes I don't even think of 4x as a Gaiden because it's just so important, I just take it for granted that way. But there's a long intro here where you're introduced to the horse loser squad. I don't really like to call them that, but I mean, these units are just so... I mean, a lot of them have great growths, actually, but just for the point in the game that you get them and just how this game works in general, it's like they don't even have any special skills or anything. So, honestly, I've never even remotely tried to train them. But we'll see if they become useful at all during this run, maybe even in this chapter. So there's basically three groups of enemies here that you got to worry about. There's this congealed mass of unpromoted ground units over here that they just charge the area with Selfina and her pals. There's this group of wyverns that have a boss who hasn't moved yet while I'm speaking here. They only move if you go in certain ranges, and to this day I've seen somebody's drawn map of where all the trigger zones are, but I honestly didn't really commit it to memory, and even now I only have like a vague idea of what triggers them. And then in the lower right there is a group of armors and like a bishop with, it's your token bishop with siege tome. That is to deter you from something or other. There is a house down there that gives a stamina drink, and the house up top gives a scroll, so I always have Karen rush over there. Now, if you do trigger these wyverns, what I'm doing here is just having my superpowered Asbel take care of them, so I don't have to worry about it at all. And if you go far enough, like 4 or 5 of them will go for the unit that you put in range, unless you somehow have a unit with such high defense that they just don't want to attack them at all, and may end up just going for the gate. And I brought Leaf and Nana, and I think what I do here is I pick up Leaf with Nana, so I can have them both in range. And I don't know if I mentioned that, by the way, that actually works if you have, let's just pretend for the moment that Nana didn't give support to Asbel. Let's just say it was like Fergus or something who was carrying Leaf. Because Leaf is technically in range while on Fergus or Nana's back or whomever, Asbel would get those bonuses. So if you tried to do it exactly how I have it here, and like you have Nana in range also, your perception of it might be skewed because he's actually getting bonuses from both, which is nice. But in point of fact, Leaf could just be on anybody's back, and as long as he's in the normal support range of 3 tiles, then Asbel will get his bonuses as well. So that's cool. But let's say that you don't have a strong enough unit, or you kind of like go half in with your placement in this first turn or second turn or whatever. What'll happen is some of them will probably go for your units, and others will probably head straight for the gate, which can be a problem because all of those guys have killer lances. Or maybe one of them, maybe the boss doesn't, weirdly enough, but these guys up in the upper left are all quite vulnerable. What you can do, if that does happen, is put either Selfina or who is the stronger of the Bow Knights, or one of the two Lance Knights onto that gate tile like I just did. And even if they get crit while they're on that gate tile, they should survive a hit, which should give you some time to get over there. Because there's a lot of mountains here, and that's really a drag, especially if you have unpromoted mounted units. Then they have to dismount and get over the mountains. You might have seen that back in Chapter 7 when I had Finn clear the mountains. It's pretty much what you have to do to get him over there, unless you somehow get him promoted, which I don't think is possible at that point. So if you've gotten him to this point, you know that. But it's good to bring Karen because she doesn't have that limitation. You know who it's not good to bring, even if you have a really good one? It is Dalsin. If he is too bulky, you might not be able to get him over the mountains, even with Karen. Because he can easily get to 20 con if you have the wrong scroll on him or just some bad luck. So he would have to walk all the way around. Because no matter, even if he's promoted, no matter how much movement procs he gets, I think, he just cannot move across mountains. And I think there might even be a chapter or two where he literally can get trapped and you have to leave him behind. So that's pretty bad. This game generally hates Dalsin a lot because there's a lot of situations like that, and also they'll just randomly throw in guys with hammers, and he's like the only guy where that matters. So it's like this game is just ridiculously hostile to armor knights. But as long as you take care of those wyverns or avoid them skillfully, these units here that rush the gate are hilariously weak. You can bring a unit that you want to train, I suppose, although they will still spill toward those cavaliers, and you generally end up meeting up with them right as they are getting past the choke point. I wouldn't bother micromanaging it, really. These soldiers can also kill, like, Kane and Alva and everything, so I guess it's not good to screw around. If you're trying to save everybody, if you really care about every last one of these guys, what you can do is have most of them escape and just leave, preferably Selfina, on the gate tile. Because having more of them doesn't really matter that much unless you get yourself into a specific situation where you really need cannon fodder, or like you can dismount them and have them be captured by the wyverns or something if you need to, and that'll nerf them to the point where they can't kill anybody who's on the gate. But you probably don't want to have Selfina escape early because she has a conversation with Callion, who we brought for that sole reason, and you get the Elite Sword or Paragon Sword, which is extremely useful. And she also has some conversations with other units like Finn and Leaf. And what's interesting is you actually get a different Finn conversation if you talk to Leaf with Selfina first, or maybe it's the other way around, where he gets admonished by her for his interaction, like how he interacted with Lachesis back in the day, which is funny, that they would have that programmed in that way. And I haven't heard people talk about it too much. But the conversation between Selfina and Leaf, which I don't think I trigger here, is actually the point of discussion for my little bit on the Japanese language here. She speaks to him in kind of like this quasi-formal way. In the beginning, she says, "O natsu ka shū gozaimasu," which is like a weird, formal, like old-timey way of saying, like, if you know some Japanese, you know the phrase natsukashi, which means like, you know, most literally it means like this is nostalgic, but in this context it means like, you know, it's so great to see you leave, you know, this brings me back, you are dear to my heart, that's why I react this way to you, that kind of deal. It imparts more of a vague feeling rather than having a direct translation in English. Those who try to translate it directly tend to make it clumsy, much like I am right now. So I will put that in the video description so that you can take a look at that, and maybe you can Google it for some entries in Japanese dictionaries and whatnot to get a better idea of when that kind of phrasing is used. It's pretty interesting, actually. So once these guys are dead, you can pretty much escape right then. I usually like to take a detour to head down and take care of that bishop, because then you can get the stamina drink from the village, and also there is like a physic, and you can get the siege tome off of that bishop or whatever. And I almost always send Finn for that purpose, because he can take care of those armor knights pretty easily, and then Brave Lance capture on that bishop is pretty much a guarantee. And I'll probably bring Leaf and maybe somebody else's backup. I think I tried to get Fergus to level 10. I think he was at like level 9 and like 99 experience or something here. Or he was already past level 10, but I wanted to get him one more level, and he just couldn't get that one experience point. Honestly, I have no idea why I'm using Kane and Alva here, other than just for funsies. I don't think there are any reinforcements you have to worry about on this map. So I did leave units behind to guard the gate just because I'm paranoid, but I don't think that's something you have to worry about. I think if you take too long on this map, that either the wyverns, if you haven't attracted them, or that group in the lower right, I think will start moving eventually. So it's not anything super urgent, and I don't even know that for sure because I haven't ever taken that long on this map. I only know because when I was looking up the Japanese script so that I could copy and paste whatever I needed to into the description later, I actually saw little bits of dialogue for those guys talking after like turn 20 or whatever. So I don't even know really what happens at longer lengths here. But yeah, once you have these two talk, you can get that sword. And Selfina is part of a couple of these kinds of conversations, actually. We're going to see another one in a chapter not long after this. So try and keep her alive, because you can get a really good item. Although it's an item that sort of like only she can use, unless you've been really diligent in training another archer, or you plan on training Robert for some reason or another. But yeah, if you take on those wyverns really early and you just want to get out of here, this can be a really quick chapter. I think the stamina drink alone is worth it. Going down here, like you can almost just kill the bishop if you wanted and just get the stamina drink, and it's worth the trip, I think, because they're hard to come by at this point. I think you might be able to buy them in the shop nearby, actually. I think the guy in the house actually tells you that. and this is like your intro to stamina drinks, which is funny because you could easily miss it if you just skip over this as a timid newer player. But it's if you use the mountains to your advantage, this is especially safe. Although if you have like too good of a fin, then some of them might not attack him. And then if you go for a capture and Finn gets his stats cut, then he can actually maybe get killed by those armors. So, don't get too cute with this, honestly. Your next opportunity to buy stamina drinks, and they're expensive, by the way. So if you want to start buying them, you got to start selling stuff, or at least thinking about what you don't need. You can probably sell chess keys, honestly. They're really valuable, and past Manster, they're like not nearly as valuable, although they can make some future chapters a bit cleaner, and then you don't have to risk bringing a lockpick sometimes, or bringing a flimsy thief. So it's but you can also make plenty of money selling items like slim swords and stuff that you're never going to need. A lot of people get paranoid when they play this game that they're going to need weapons like that at some point. And if you just like stop capturing entirely, or you just get like really lazy with like gaining treasure, and like you lose a lot of units that had a lot of your best weapons, then maybe it's good to keep a spare around, even if they're not great weapons. But honestly, I would say sell your crappy weapons earlier rather than later, because you're going to want to buy things like door keys and stamina drinks and whatnot in these middle chapters. And if that opportunity passes you by, you might not get another one. Because in late game, a lot of the best shops are heavily guarded, especially in one chapter in particular that I'll point out if and when we get there. So my advice is spend them if you got them in regard to your gold pieces. And, even these like meteor tomes, like you can get to the point where like Asbel can use them, or oh god, I was gonna say maybe Miranda can use them. That's not likely. But I mean, suffice to say that there are guys that can make use of them probably later on. But you can sell those. You can keep like one or two around if you want. But I've ended up with like 5 or 6 of them just sitting around in my inventory on different runs. Not so much this one, especially because I passed up those 2 bishops on chapter, 6? But, you can piecemeal together a good pool of funds if you just sell like one of those, each of those types of items that you just have lying around. And as one last little treat for this chapter, we'll see the Fergus promotion. And looking at his stats here, like I remember thinking while playing this that this is like not that great of a Fergus. See, I'm even like looking at his stats in disbelief. But you've seen how much work he puts in, and if there's an argument to be made at all for what I've been saying about like weapon ranks and weapon types and like other just circumstances like that that don't relate directly to stats matter more in this game than having a big stat number, that's it right there. I mean, just go back and look at that Fergus if you have to. A weak unit with a brave sword is going to, destroy a good unit with who's forced to use like an iron sword or whatever 9 out of 10 times. So that's the lesson for today. Not that really exciting of a map when you know how to tackle it. And I will see you in chapter 10. Thank you for watching.